Welcome into another episode of Everything is Logistics, a podcast for the thinkers in freight. We are proudly presented by SPI Logistics, and my name is Blythe Brumleve. We are live on site at the Florida Supply Chain Summit here in my hometown of Jacksonville, Florida. And we have joining us today is Spencer Jury. You are, what's your title for us? I'm blanking on the title name. We're kicking this off, right?
I am the Director of Domestic Intermodal for the Florida East Coast Railway.
And let's just jump right into it because you have a long history in this industry. So tell us a little bit about like your background in the industry before you joined FEC.
Sure. Like many here in Florida, I'm a transplant from the Chicago area, but I've been involved in supply chain since 2003. I've worked in a number of different brokerages, warehousing, trucking, drayage, every avenue you can think of. In fact, I'd like to believe I've gained probably far too much exposure than I should have. It's been a really good journey. In 2015, I kind of closed the loop with, I guess you could say, a supply chain management graduate degree, which really opened my eyes to a lot of everything that's out there. And now we're here in Florida, and I'm closing the loop, and I'm involved with the railroad now. So
you went to school first, or you went to school after you started working in the industry?
I actually went after.
Oh, interesting.
So about 12 years after.
So what made you want to go to school because typically it's either it's a family business or it's you went to school for it and got into the industry?
Well, I feel that I kind of hit that glass ceiling, if you will, and I felt there was so much more that you could grasp from supply chain, and ultimately that degree really did open my eyes to what's out there, what's available, and everything, every inner working about it. So it was very enjoyable for me to do.
That's super interesting because I mean, I've thought about going, like, what would it have been like if I went to school for this industry? And my outsider opinion was, well, they're not going to teach you, everything you need to know about present day and how to actually do the job of working in logistics. It's just maybe theoretical. Yeah. But it sounds like you had a completely different, but that my assumption is wrong.
Yeah, well, I actually had a conversation with an individual last night regarding that, and there's benefits to both getting that kind of on-site experience versus going to school first, or I guess you could say vice versa. But I would say either way, you put yourself in a favorable position if you're getting that additional knowledge before you even start. Really, it's just so vast. You can go in so many different directions. So it
was beneficial.
Yes, to each their own, right?
Right.
It really depends on the individual too.
And I think too, and I've said this before on the show, is that this industry is so interesting because the more layers you peel back, the more you realize how much more there is to learn. Like I was telling you before we started recording that this morning I was watching like a historical video on how Florida East Coast Railway got started, and it was I think his name was John Flagler, who's Flagler University, or not here in St. Augustine, but nearby in St. Augustine. He moved down to St. Augustine with his wife because they wanted to have warmer weather because she was a little sick, and so they wanted to come down for warmer weather. But he found that there was no transportation options and not really a hotel, a luxury hotel for the rich and famous. And so he built both of those things.
That is absolutely correct. And he actually worked along Rockefeller. So he had a lot of capital, right? Yeah. But I talked last night again to another individual. If you really want to read a great book, and this goes for everyone out there too, The Last Train to Paradise talks about the actual building of the Florida East Coast Railroad, because that train was initially built to extend not only from Jacksonville to Miami, but all the way to Florida Keys, right? And if you've been to the Keys before, you'll notice a lot of that infrastructure still sits there today, which is really, really cool.
What happened to that? Because I remember driving over that bridge, but I didn't know, I just thought it was an old bridge, and they built a new, sort of highway right next to it. So what happens to the old bridge? Is it maybe just for fishing, or?
They just left it there. I mean, the infrastructure was, I don't even know how to phrase this, but it was so ahead of its time back then that it hasn't moved. I mean, initially that was all destroyed from a hurricane in the early 1900s, and it's still there.
And I heard that during that storm, when they shut down the Miami to Keys corridor, that there was like 2 miles of the rail track that washed up onto shore in the state of Florida, not just the Keys.
Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of people lost their lives, and they believe that was a Class 5 hurricane.
Wow.
That came through. It was before the system was in place, but it was pretty bad.
Wow. Yeah. And so, I mean, to this day, they haven't built that back up because it's probably not worth it But let's talk a little bit about what is worth it from the Jacksonville to Miami corridor. So how does give us, I guess, sort of the overall view of like what kind of commodities are being used or being shipped, and Florida is also kind of famously like inbound is great, but outbound is terrible.
Sure.
So how do you sort of balance that as a company standpoint?
Great question. Ultimately, and I think you and I had spoke about that initially, but from Jacksonville to Miami, we have a lot of traffic. Right? As you know, Florida consumes a significant amount of things, and honestly, Florida is not biased. We will take on any product. The FEC will, right? But we very much understand the concept and that model that anything coming southbound, you're going to be stuck. So with us, when you're running southbound, we know we're going to bring you right back northbound, right? So we kind of work that into our rating structure to help kind of drive a little bit additional volume and allow people to understand that we don't want you to get stuck down here. It's already problematic enough. So if we can put you on a position to come down south and turn you around, come right back, all good.
And so when you say like turn around and come right back, you're talking strictly on rail, only rail,
Yes.
maybe no 3PL partners or truck partners or anything like that.
100%. Full utilization of the FEC assets in our tracks. Yeah.
And for intermodal as a whole, it's kind of having a moment right now. We just recently had Ann Rinke on the show. She's the president and CEO of IANA, and that was sort of my, I guess, intro into learning more about intermodal, because I say that because I come from an asset-based trucking background, and early days in my career, it was that was the only world I knew. We had an intermodal department, but they were like in the back of the building, and nobody really even talked to them because they were just a small department in the back of the building. But now it feels like intermodal has really come to the forefront, especially in a challenging freight market. Why do you think more companies are starting to use the strategic advantage of intermodal?
Well, trucking has been around for such a long time, right? And it's been a backbone of the country forever, right? But I think providing an additional option regarding a modality such as intermodal is always beneficial. I think unfortunately, we're steering our market in a way that we need a product tomorrow. But there are still those products that don't necessarily need to be there tomorrow that can be utilized and be there a day later. And that's where intermodal really comes into play. Ultimately, it's transit. That's really the difference between truckload and intermodal is just transit. So for Florida East Coast Railway, it might take 6 hours for you to drive a truck from Jacksonville to Miami, traffic willing, right? For our trains, it takes 8 to 10 hours.
That's not bad at all.
No, it's very similar, right? But when you start to extend beyond our network and start to move in, say, Chicago to Miami, it's going to be a little different.
Why is that?
For a truck, it's probably 2 to 3 days. Let's say 3 days. For a train, it's going to be 3 to 5. So again, we're similar, but we're not. But again, when you talk about sustainability as well, we're definitely at the forefront, right? It is significantly much more fuel efficient to push anything on a train as opposed to a truck. And we can handle that much more. We can take way more than a truck can. So.
And there's an additional, sort of a fan component, because one of the videos that I was watching this morning, there's some avid, I knew there were like train fans.
Yeah.
But they're like train fanatics.
Yes.
This one channel I was watching, he was very adamant on catching certain because you have the I'm going to mess up, I'm going to butcher these terms, but like the front, I guess, not cabin, or the front part of the train, and then you have all of the different, different painted containers that follow behind it, and some are like specially designed and specially painted, and there's some people that are happy with a rebrand that's going on right now within the FEC, and then some people are not happy because they like the old color scheme better, and they try to capture on camera, these different train cars that are all painted different colors, and I found that was another layer of logistics that I had no idea existed.
I have to be honest, I actually really enjoy when we kind of change the branding and change how things were. Like if you look at our trains in the 60s and 70s, they were this yellow-orange kind of color. It was actually very, very interesting because we were like, I believe, the Sunshine Express or something like that, which made sense.
Right.
It was very unique. It was different. We moved in a different direction, and it almost matches my vest now, and it's kind of a green color. It's actually very beautiful, but I kind of like that old sense. And we've got a couple of those engines that are still painted that way, right? But it's really neat because not only us, the Class 1s would do that in celebration of the military. We have a breast cancer awareness train.
That's the one I saw.
Yeah, I believe I had that picture on my LinkedIn for a while, and that's probably one of my favorite trains. It's got that pink shade in it, and Susan G. Komen on the side. It's very unique.
How often does that happen, that you're deciding, we're going to paint a new train?
Yeah, again, it really depends on when and who.
Yeah.
They'll make that call and say, okay, let's make an adjustment. We'll change the color this week.
It's very similar to like a truck wrapping, where
Yes.
a lot of folks will either invest in it or not invest in it at all.
Absolutely perfect example. Yes.
So let's get back to a little bit of what kind of domestic freight that FEC is hauling.
Sure.
Is hauling even the correct phrase
Yes,
that
absolutely.
I would use? Okay,
yeah,
good.
hauling is perfect. Again, FEC, we really don't have an issue with anything. We ship freight of all kinds. It really doesn't matter. We won't bring in some certain hazmat, I guess you could say, items, but in the grand scheme, we'll bring about anything from, I don't know, retail product to carload to whatever you have. Bring it to us, we'll entertain it.
What about from, I guess, the shipper's perspective? What do you think are some misconceptions about using intermodal, or maybe some of the advantages of using intermodal versus some other modes of transportation?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, let's use an example for a truck. A truck will come in, they'll get loaded, they'll leave, they'll deliver. When you're in a train, let's use Jacksonville to Miami as that example. Driver goes in, gets loaded in Jacksonville, proceeds south to Miami, delivers. On a train, we have a driver that goes in with a container. He racks it in with a container and a chassis. He brings it to our rail ramp. We lift it off the train, or off the chassis, and put it on the train, right? So there's one element that doesn't take place on a truck versus a train perspective. We have to lift that whole container up, and that causes movement, and that can cause a problem. Gets on the train, proceeds south. That's the same as a truck. We do the same thing when it gets to destination. It's lifted off, put on a chassis, and we go deliver. So I think a lot of people get concerned that when they're operating, say, with someone such as us, that product get grabbed and it gets stacked in a yard somewhere, and it just sits there. It's not necessarily the case. We're a non-stack facility, so anything that comes in our train, it's immediately put to wheels. And I'll be honest, I don't think our containers are lifted more than 6 to 7 feet off the train, and that's it.
Is that an importance? Like, how important is it to not be lifted so high or above a certain height?
Less touch is going to cause less shaking, right?
Okay.
So by no means do I mean to badmouth my counterparts across the country, but, and again, me being from Chicago, there's a huge, vast network of rail terminals, every place you can go to, right? So those containers are lifted multiple times, moved from different areas, touched here, touched there to shift and position them appropriately. That truck won't be here for 2 days. We're going to put it here. They'll come back and get it later and put it back again, right? When it gets off our train, it's lifted, put on a chassis right away, and ready to go for that drayage provider to actually deliver. So.
I never even knew that was a concept that shippers should be concerned about, because I would imagine the more times you use it or move it, the more times the potential to get damaged or, kind of things rustle around. Is that mainly the concerns that were...
I believe so.
Or unknown concerns maybe that some shippers have.
Agreed. And again, part of that is that, and then the transit are probably my 2 big points. And then finally, I would say cost, right? Everyone's going to be reevaluating their costs. I will tell you right now, Florida East Coast can be more competitive than truckload into Florida. Bottom line.
And now, is it only the railway is only from Jacksonville to Miami, or are there other sort of?
So our local network is 351 miles from Jacksonville to Miami. But we're partnered with the Class 1s and CSX, NS on the eastern half. We work with the West Coast providers too, some in Canada, and then we are actually owned by Grupo Mexico. So they actually own Ferromex, which is the largest rail in Mexico.
Oh, interesting. I did hear about that and how they recently became, the owners, or I guess the holders of FEC. So that's interesting that Mexico would be expanding in that regard. Is nearshoring, how is nearshoring affecting?
Well, I think you had brought up Aena. A lot of our Ferromex team was with us, and a lot of individuals were steering towards them. They wanted to have those discussions with the Mexico team, because I think that's of great importance. A lot of people are starting to find that it's a big opportunity in and out of Mexico. So we're kind of scratching the surface there, but I think as we proceed, we're going to see more and more opportunities out of Mexico, which would be good.
Now, what are some other maybe news stories, under the radar issues that are going on, or maybe challenges that are going on within rail, specifically when it comes to Florida? Is there anything that maybe shippers should be aware of whenever they're planning what their transportation options could be?
Yeah, I can't really think of anything offhand for us. I know throughout the entirety of the domestic U.S., specifically the West Coast and some parts of Chicago, people are finding that theft is up. Theft is a big problem right now, but the industry is taking a lot of steps to really curb that. A number of different infrastructure changes, things with how the trains operate and move. Because you'll see a lot of them will come in and stop, and that'll give, say, a thief an opportunity to come in and grab what they can and open a container and just start throwing boxes off.
That's what's happening in California,
Yeah.
where there's one just central location where all you see is the railroad tracks and a bunch of boxes scattered everywhere.
Yeah.
Does that happen in Florida too?
No, we're no crime at all. We're consistently moving. It's very difficult for you to kind of do that. And we have great security too. And again, kind of like we talked about, ours never sit. It's a grab, pull, and it's out, right? So there's very little crime.
Strategic advantage in that regard, because you don't have like, I think I talked about this with Ann, like what does it look like nowadays? Is it like bandits running on horses and...
You never know.
Right. Or maybe in Florida, we just got a new, or I don't know if a lot of folks are aware, but we actually have buffalo in the state that they have released in the middle of the state.
I'm
and
sorry,
they're thriving
here?
In Central Florida.
Oh my gosh, I would never think that.
Yeah, so they're trying to sort of bring it back, or bring the species back in different pockets all over the country.
Oh, I
and
love
Central
that.
Florida is one of those.
That's great.
So you could have maybe some bandits that are running around on bison or something, trying to get on top of a train.
That is crazy. Interesting. Yeah.
All right, well, let's
Yeah.
talk about what does even growth look like? Is it can you add more rail lines? Is that even a thing that you guys want to do? What does, I guess, expansion look like?
Yeah.
Or is that even in the cards? Or is it just raising awareness for more customers to know about the advantages of shipping on intermodal?
I will tell you, first and foremost, our team is directly focused on growth, and I guess you could say, how do I get you involved with the FEC? Right? There's so many people that don't really know about us, but we've been here since the late 1800s. How do you not?
Right.
So that's been kind of an initiative that we've worked on, is really generating some positive feedback with us, and hey, come use us, we're here. So besides that, in regards to an expansion perspective, we have a lot of invested in capital regarding our current railheads or our terminals. We're finding that we've installed some automated gate systems in some spaces that we didn't have before, which is allowing that much more quick of a in and out with a lot of the drayage providers. By December of 2026, we have a ramp in Fort Pierce, Florida, that will be a huge expansion out west. So we're really excited about that. That's going to be a really big thing for us. So that should drive a lot of opportunities into that area.
Now, as you mentioned, with your company being around since the 1800s, I imagine that maybe some tech enhancements are being made. You mentioned earlier about fraud prevention. What does the tech scene look like at a modern day railway?
I'll be honest. In my short time in this industry, I feel that intermodal could be greatly enhanced technologically. Now, our team is, without me oversharing, we have a really good roadmap out there on what we want to do in the upcoming years in regards to changes and enhancements within our railroad, not only here, but in Mexico too. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. So I imagine, there's the big buzzwords that have existed, I think, for the last, since I've been covering this industry for 5 years. There's visibility, most recently AI. Are these kinds of technologies also impacting rail too?
100%.
Really?
Yes. So if you think about the truck industry, when I load something, I want to know where that truck is every 10 minutes, right? So we leverage GPS and everything like that. We do the same on the rail. We have sensors along the entirety of the tracks. When that train is running, when that train pops up, it's going to show you. We have our own tool, which is FECR Connect, which customers can get direct access to, and they see everything. And then once it delivers, you have the paperwork, and all that's uploaded in the system.
And so when you are working with customers, are you working directly with shippers, or are you working with brokerage partners, carrier partners, kind of all of the above?
All of the above.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what does the onboarding process look like? If I'm, say, a brokerage versus a shipper, what does that onboarding process look like?
Something I'm also working on. I think it could move a little quicker.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if I were to get in the weeds, we run a quick credit check. We kind of give you the intermodal service directory, anything you might have. We kind of tie the knots and put everything together, cross the T's, dot the I's, and then off we go. We have an operations team. We'll have a quick onboarding discussion, a quick introduction. Here's who you're dealing with. Here's who you're dealing with on this side. And then my team and I, we're there to kind of help in the middle.
So it sounds very similar to trucking.
It is. It really is. Yeah. It's quick and painless.
Right. Well, I think that was... Oh, I do have a couple more lightning round questions.
Oh, go for it.
Okay. What's the most underrated Florida intermodal fact? Not really lightning round, but...
That's a really good question. I would probably say that transit we talked about. I don't think a lot of people grasp that concept. We can literally move a container from Jacksonville to Miami, make a delivery, and get it back to Jacksonville in 24 hours.
It's wild. And I don't think a lot of people know that. I didn't know that, and I'm born and raised in Florida.
I mean, there's opportunity there, right? If you're a trucker, think about that. You're going to go south, deliver, and maybe hang out for the day. Are they going to find me a load? Am I going to find a load? I don't have to do that. We'll take it, deliver it, and bring it back to you in Jacksonville. And we can put it on a trailer, too. It doesn't have to be a container. We run trailer on flat car, meaning if you have it on trailer, we'll put that whole trailer on the train, ship it down, we'll deliver it for you as we have our own drayage, and bring it back.
Amazing. All right, what's one metric you watch daily?
Oh, definitely volume. I'm looking at it every day.
And is it trending in a good direction,
It is.
Stable direction?
How about stability right now? But we'll see.
Yeah. I think everybody is.
This was supposed to be a good year, right? It was supposed to be a good year.
Less chaotic, more certainty, but here we are.
I think you're talking right on those two important points.
Right?
Chaotic and certainty.
But it does sound like with intermodal, especially from the Jacksonville to Miami corridor, that stability, at least from a customer standpoint, if I know I'm looking to save money and I'm looking for reliability and still a lot of the tech advancements that you see in trucking, such as visibility, sounds like rail is crossing off of all of those and different checklists.
You can throw sustainability in there too. Now we've crossed 3 off the bucket list. Yes, sir.
All right, what is something that you think is important to mention that we haven't already talked about when it comes to FEC?
Again, just generating awareness of our organization. I'm going to continue to push that over.
That's what Ann said too, is that there's been a little bit of an awareness marketing problem with rail, and how that's her goal, is to expand the knowledge base of rail to the greater logistics community.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Right? We need to help people understand that there is this mode out here that can help you.
Why do you think that it's been a little bit of a knowledge gap?
Well, I think people grow greatly content in this industry, right? If it's working, why touch it? And that's, me personally, I've never operated that way. I want to try to find a new and better way, a more efficient way, a less costly way, and everyone should be looking at that. And intermodal can provide that. You just got to allow us the opportunity. And a second piece, I think people are a little afraid of intermodal because they're not really sure how it works. I'll be happy to walk through that with you.
Awesome. Well, Spencer, I think that is a perfect place to land it. And for folks who may want to learn more about working with you, working with FEC, where can I send them?
Oh, Florida East Coast. You can find us on Google. Just type it in. It's fecrwy.com. And then if you want, you can find me on LinkedIn, Spencer Jury, Florida East Coast. Nice big train in the banner.
Which kind of train? Is it the breast cancer awareness?
I actually think we had a professional shoot done, and I took one of those.
Oh, nice.
It was too nice. I couldn't pass it.
Well, I mean, that's part of building the awareness of intermodal, is taking the photos and marketing the uniqueness of the industry, and so, or this mode of the industry. So, Spencer, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for the opportunity. This was great.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.